All right, guys, Lone Wolf Auto Spa back here with a regular YouTube video this time. I know it's been a while since I've done one, but I'm gonna work on my QV today. Today we're gonna do an oil change. I know I'm not gonna be the first person to do this, but I know I'm also not gonna be the last. So I'm just gonna show you guys my process, how I do it, what to expect, and I guess what you need. So I have kind of everything laid out right here. And basically, starting from left to right, you're gonna need a socket set. Specifically, let's see here. I think this is a 7mm socket and a 32mm socket for the oil filter. You're gonna need 7.5 quarts of oil filter, and then some optional equipment would be this blow gun tool to blow everything out. Torque wrench is not optional. Yoga block, you're gonna need that. Some oil containers, air compressor, gloves obviously, and then my method, I use the oil extractor. It's always nice to top your windshield, wash your fluid off, and then going over here, cleaning spray wise, gonna have some detail spray to do the carbon hood. This to clean the engine, some APC, and then just an engine dressing. So let's get started. All right, first things first, I like to take my Logan tool and then just blow everything out. It'll just clean it up. I guess get all these rocks out, this little dust. So just blow. Jeez, sorry. But if you just blow everything out, after that, we can start taking it quote unquote apart. So the first thing you're gonna want to do to take it, get to the oil filter, is pop this thing off. It's just grommets. Just go set it on the ground. It's just plastic, so it'll be fine. But all of this is basically held together with grommets. This is what I like to go to next. Just take that off, and this pops off like that. So once that's off, this will pop back off, but you got to watch out. Everyone talks about there being like an AC line attached back here. Mine doesn't have that. I don't know why, but I have searched and there is nothing attached back here. So you have to watch out for that, just because that's probably an expensive fix. But just be careful. But next, you're just going to pop this thing up, and we'll go from there. All right, next, as you can see, took these grommets off. Not too hard. Pop that up. Can't really tell. But you're going to take these screws off. And I always like to inspect the oil filter. Or not the oil filter, but the air filter. Make sure, see if you need replacing and whatnot. But yep, you're just gonna pop that up, and then we'll go from there. All right, like I said, so undid screw, and screw. Pop this thing up, this little thing that's held in by grommets. You can see there's one right here, and I guess mine's missing one right there. And then just kind of lifts up like so, and we're gonna place the little yoga block right behind it, so it's just leveraged up. That way you can have access to the oil filter. All right, so another thing I did off camera was take that little air filter box off, so you have better access to the oil filter right there. Here, if you come over here, you can see where the AC line usually attaches. Like I said, mine wasn't there, but you're gonna want to make sure you take that off. But another thing I like to do before I always put this thing back together, just take a little APC, clean it off, right? Always put it back nicer than you found it. So just like to clean everything off real good and wipe it down, blow it off. I'll let this soak in there, and yeah, so that's a little tip of the day. But all right, so I'm gonna show you what I did here. So basically, you're gonna take the smaller of the two tubes that come with the oil extractor and stick it all the way down the dipstick hole, and that's going to go to the bottom of the engine case. Make sure it's all the way down there. That way you get maximum oil out. And then you're going to take this piece, plug it in on top here, twist her on, boom. Then basically you just stick this and this together, and you're almost ready to go. But yeah, so I'm going to do that because I need 2 hands, and then I'll get back to you guys. All right, that's connected. Next up, you're going to want to close this valve. Take your little air compressor. Make sure this is set to, I like 60 PSI. This says between 40 and 175. I prefer to go slower than faster. It's just gonna be easier on the oil extractor. Take your air hose and connect it up right here. See if I can do this with one hand. Nope. All right, I'll get back to you when it's connected. All right, just was thinking myself, so here's a couple things you can do while this thing does its course. I like to crack the oil filter, and I also like to top off the windshield washer fluid. I mean, I always like to let this thing run for like 30 minutes, make sure everything's sucked out. You got nothing to do today, let's be real here. So I'll get started on that, and then I'll pick the camera back up when I'm about to crack the oil filter, and we'll go from there. All right, so this thing's about, I'd say, halfway full, if you want to call it. And so I'm going to pop that off, and I'm going to empty that into a gallon. That way it doesn't overfill, and then we'll go from there. All right. I have it now emptied out and resumed. So, yep, gonna let this thing do its thing now. Probably another 20 more minutes of sucking. I filled up 1 gallon so far of oil. So, yeah, we'll see, I guess, how much I end up filling up. But next up will be that oil filter. So let's get it cracked. All right, so this thing's still running, but I have my filter all layered up, and I got my trusty ratchet. So basically, you're just gonna go here, boom, and then break it loose. Okay? So we'll get back when I have it loose, and yeah. All right, so took the filter out, and you can see that is what the oil filter housing looks like. But basically, since we have this extractor, one thing I like to do is take this out. We're going to turn it on, though, before we take it out, and just suck out all the oil in there. As long as we reprime the oil filter back, there should be no issue, and then you're just getting a little bit more out that you normally wouldn't get out with, I guess, a normal oil change. So that's kind of the beauty of the extractor. But basically, just slide this thing out, turn this thing on. That way you're not losing oil as you're pulling it out. Probably should be wearing gloves, I'm going to be honest, but, you know, everyone can be dumb. But just stick it in here. Get it all out. I mean, last time I did this and it was fine, so I'm hoping it's the same this time, but it just gets, you know, a little bit more out. And as long as you prime it back, you're fine. So yeah, I mean, that's probably a whole cup right there we just pulled out of the engine. So yeah, I'm gonna leave it run like this for a couple minutes, let it suck all that stuff out. You could probably get in here with it, just suck it out right there. So all that should be clean. So you got nothing to lose. Well, you do have something to lose, your engine, but you'll be more than fine doing this. And yeah, so I'll get back to you when I stick it back in there. I'll show you how to prime that, and then we'll throw the oil filter back in, and we're about to wrap this thing up. Just put it back together, top it off with oil. It takes 7.5 quarts. Last time I did this, it only took 7. So that's kind of why I like to try and get as much oil out as possible, just to see if I can get anything else that You know, usually somebody else would miss, but that's just my way, I guess. Your engine, you decide if you want to do that or not, but that's my story. All right, so I have finished sucking out all the oil, things completely cleaned. That's all drained out. So basically what I was talking about earlier was taking this and quote unquote priming the oil filter housing, I guess you could call it. But just because we sucked oil out of there, it doesn't hurt to do this. And I guess I'm gonna do this by myself or with one or two hands, not one, but yeah, you're just gonna dump this in and go from there. All right, so this is what I was talking about. Just bringing that oil back up to the same level that it had while it was in there. And then from there, we'll put the filter cartridge back together. And obviously we have to oil the oil O-rings. There's 3 of them. You're just gonna take some oil, rub it on each of these 2, and then this one as well. And snap the cartridge back together like so. One second. Gotta fiddle it together. I'll get it off camera. I'll oil those up and then I'll show you before it goes back in the engine. All right, so what I did here was I took some Pennzoil, put it in the cap, and lubed up all 3 of these O-rings. There's 3 of them. Rub some oil on it, help seal it up. And then you're gonna stick it in there. That's a 2-hand job, obviously. And then twist it in till it's hand tight. And then you're gonna crank it down to 25 Newton meters of torque. That's why you need the torque wrench. So once I've done that, I'll pick it up and I'll show you guys where we're at. All right, guys, so I have it torqued down to 25 Newton meters, but you should be able to make sure you can visibly see that that is completely sealed all the way around. And, you know, it's always nice to just click it twice, make sure it's all good, and you're good to go on the oil filter. All right, so basically we're gonna start reassembling the engine. So you're gonna put the oil or the air filter back in there. You're gonna close that up, and then we're gonna put the grommets back on, and then we're gonna put this thing back on. And so I'll take you step by step while I do it, but I'm gonna throw that in first and then recoup with you. All right, so I snapped that back in. Next, we're gonna put these 2 grommets on, and boom. You're on. Make sure it's on nice and good. 1, 2, and after this, so they're pinned right here, so you can't really put it backwards. Well, maybe I did, so we'll see. But yeah, so I guess you can't. But so that one goes there, and this one lines up with this right here. And next we snap that and that piece. All right, one of the last steps, well, you can't even do that yet, but next we just gotta fill it with oil right here. Put the dipstick back in, and then, yeah, we'll go from there. I'm only gonna start with 6 quarts of oil, see if it registers on the dipstick. And then, just because last time I pulled 6 quarts, so I'm assuming it's probably gonna be about the same this time. And yeah, I'll go from there. All right, so basically we extracted 6 quarts of oil, fill it up with 6 quarts, and was halfway up on the dipstick. Perfect. Next, we just got to click on the cover. And then, pro tip. So my car was recently in for service. No surprise there. And I'm doing some digging around, right? I have a check engine code for P0248. Turbo B wastegate solenoid range. And so, nice thing to do while you have your hood up. Just check everything out, make sure everything looks right. Obviously, everything should be tight. Boom, boom. Go to check to make sure this thing is tight, and she is loose as a goose. Further looking in, the hose clamp isn't even tightened down. Shame on Alfa Service. So I'm going to go with, this was when my transmission got replaced. This was loose and never done back properly, because I don't think that would have to get messed with to take the bumper off and then replace the headlight. So yeah, that's why you always check everything under your engine. The biggest downfall for Alfa is their service, and that just goes to show you why. It sucks, but it is what it is. Great car, shitty service. Nothing much you can do there. But basically, now that everything's buttoned back up, you're back together, you're back together, you're back together. You're back, well, you're not back together, but you're tight, you're in, tight. I like to clean everything off. You don't want to do that while the dipstick's out and the cap's off, because you don't want cleaner or any sort of water to get in there. So I'm going to clean everything off with my APC. I'm going to go over the hood with a detail spray, and I'll just follow back up with you. And then obviously throw the cover back on, but it's dirty under there, so I'm going to clean under there first. And then, yeah, dress everything and then close it up. Alright, so just going to want to start your engine up, pull up the oil level, make sure that's all good. Go in here, check to see if you see any oil pissing anywhere. It'd be quite evident. I am good to go. Don't see any oil leaking out of the filter back there. So yeah, you can pick this thing up again, check underneath it. That's a two-hand job. That's what I'm going to do though. And yeah, we'll go from there. I'm just going to clean up this hood, get it down here, do that, and then we're good to go. All right, just to recap everything we just did. Basically, took everything out, replaced the filter, sucked the oil out of there, filled the oil back up right there, torqued it down to 25 Newton meters, and sucked the oil out. Any questions, leave them down in the comments below. If you want to see more content with this car, I'm going to keep it for the next couple of years. So yeah, there's going to be more to come. But also, any questions, comments, concerns, leave them down in the comments below. Tips for me, anything like that, I'm more than happy to listen. So yeah, I appreciate you guys watching. Hopefully you learned something. If not, maybe you had a good time otherwise, or you were just bored and wanted to watch something. But whatever it was, I appreciate it. And thank you. Bye.